Hi everyone, this is Migs from PH, and today we have the full performance review on the Adidas Harden Volume 6. Before we get started, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then I'll also be leaving a link to the SNBPH Sneaker on this Facebook group in the description box, so I do hope you can join us over there because that is a place where we talk about sneakers and basketball quite a bit, and it's also where we have the SNBPH Steel Cabinet, where I, as well as a lot of our other members, take some shoes that we no longer use and put them up for bidding at way below market value. Then if you haven't already yet, please do make sure to sub to the channel because it really does help us out quite a lot. And with that being said, after a few weeks of rigorous testing, we finally have the full performance review on the Adidas Harden Volume 6. Like I said in my initial unboxing and review of this shoe, I definitely think Adidas stepped it up and redeemed themselves because the Harden Volume 6 is definitely such a far cry from the Harden Volume 5. The Harden Volume 5 was just, in my opinion, such a disappointing on-court shoe. I mean, off the court, there were some nice colorways, especially the launch colorway that did look pretty quirky and pretty cool. But once you took them out to play basketball, instead of feeling like that light strike and boost combination that they promised, you ended up with a pretty stiff and uncomfortable brick on foot. The materials on the Harden Volume 5 were also just abysmal and they hurt your feet. And just to top it all off, the fit on the Harden Volume 5 was also pretty wonky and pretty sloppy. I am happy to say though that after testing these for a couple of weeks, I think the Harden line is back on track, and in the end I do think this is a really solid option if you're looking for a 2022 basketball shoe. Just like I said a while ago, this is such a drastic improvement from the Harden Volume 5, but as always, like with any other shoe, it isn't perfect. So to break the shoe down and for you to figure out if the Harden Volume 6 is the right basketball shoe for you, let's take a look at the tech specs, starting off with the traction. The traction on the Harden Volume 6 does make use of solid rubber all throughout, with a herringbone pattern from the forefoot all the way to the heel. Like I always say, herringbone is just such a tried and true traction pattern. I mean, it's been in basketball footwear for I think the better part of 30 to 40 years. And even now in 2022, a lot of our grippiest basketball shoes use a herringbone outsole, and the Harden Volume 6 definitely follows that trend. Traction on the Harden Volume 6 was definitely super reliable and really fun to play in because it did have a really strong bite on the court, covered you in all directions, and for the most part it didn't have much of a problem on dusty courts. The only issue I did have though is if the court is like super duper dusty, because it does lose some of that grip and gets a little slick if the herringbone gets clogged up, especially here at the lateral side of the forefoot. This is a pretty easy and quick wipe though, so if you play on really dusty courts with these, it's still definitely gonna perform well, especially if you remember to keep these clean. Then for the durability of the outsole, my pair doesn't really have any fraying or missing portions of herringbone, and I did expect that from this shoe because the rubber is actually pretty hard, and the herringbone pattern is also pretty thick as well. So overall for the traction, being that it is really grippy, it's pretty durable, and you just have to keep it clean if you're playing on super dusty courts, you're gonna have to give the traction on the Harden Volume 6 an A. Then moving on to the cushion, the Harden Volume 6 is a bit of a throwback in terms of the Harden line because instead of using that light strike from the Harden Volume 4 and 5, it uses a full-length boost midsole like the Harden Volume 1, the 2, and the 3, but the implementation of that full-length boost is definitely super similar to the Harden Volume 1. Just like the Harden Volume 1, the Harden Volume 6 makes use of a full-length boost midsole that does have rubber coming up and caging it here on the lateral side, while the medial side is almost fully exposed. I'm just super happy that they brought full-length boost back because the Harden Volume 4 and the Volume 5 with their light strike midsole was just pretty underwhelming to say the least. I mean, there's nothing against light strike because I do enjoy that light strike midsole on the Trae 1 as well as the Adidas Next Level, but with the Harden Volume 4 and the 5, it just wasn't implemented the right way, so I'm definitely glad that they switched it back to boost. that full-length boost midsole on the Harden Volume 6 has a lot of impact protection. It's really soft, plush, and comfy underfoot, and since it is pretty thin here at the forefoot, you also get good responsiveness. It also does feel really stable because you are kinda low to the ground, and also because it is caged here on the lateral side. So overall, given that amazing plushness and comfort as well as impact protection, with pretty good responsiveness and stability, you're gonna have to give the cushion on the Harden Volume 6 an A+. Then for the materials, this is the part of the shoe that I found super disappointing just right out of the box, because the materials just felt super cheap in hand and also looked pretty cheap as well. I mean, I know that Adidas used recycled materials for the upper, but I also know that they made the Parley Ultra Boosts, and those also use recycled materials but actually feel pretty premium and soft. So I really don't think that having recycled materials is an excuse to give us a shoe with an upper that just feels so cheap. One of the other problems with the upper as well is that it isn't durable, because I did just test these out and play in them for a couple of weeks, but my shoe already looks like I've been using them for months, or like it's been run over by a truck, because it looks so dirty and dingy and it has a lot of scuffs all around. Then I guess in line with the durability of the upper, it is super easy to get these dirty, and not only that, it's also really hard to clean. I mean, I've only had this shoe for a few weeks now, and it's the one that looks the dirtiest among all of my shoes. On a positive note though, once you break in that upper, it does feel pretty comfy on foot, and I also do like this mesh tongue because it provides that breathability. So overall, the materials do get the job done on court, but I just really can't look past the fact that the upper feels super cheap, it's not durable, and it's a dirt magnet that's hard as hell to clean. So overall, for the materials, I'm gonna have to give the Harden Volume 6 a B. Then moving on to the support, Harden has always had pretty supportive shoes, and the Harden Volume 6 is right in line with that. Starting off with the base of the shoe, that outsole is really wide in the forefoot and the heel, and though it technically doesn't have an outrigger, you don't really need one because you really feel planted and secure given how wide that outsole is. Then moving on to the midfoot, you can see that plastic shank plate that really is kind of the backbone of the shoe, giving you that good torsional support. Then moving on to the midsole, the whole lateral side is caged with this rubber, and it really helps keep you stable, especially knowing how soft Boost can be. You also do have an internal heel counter here at the back to keep your heel from shifting out of the shoe. Aside from the heel cup, you also have that rubber that encases the midsole, comes up to the upper to help with the lateral support as well. So overall, for the support, I do think the Harden Volume 6 does an excellent job. I really felt planted and stable with the shoe, and even on those violent side-to-side movements, I never felt like my foot could slide out of the footbed. So overall, for the support, I'm gonna have to give the Harden Volume 6 an A+. Then moving on to fit and lockdown, I did go through the size with the Harden Volume 6, and it fit me pretty well. The width on the shoe was basically perfect for my foot, but there was also definitely a bit of extra length. I was actually quite concerned because normally when you have extra length, you can sort of have some heel slippage or you could be sliding in the shoe. But given that the shoe does have 2 massive Achilles pillows as well as 4 ankle pillows as well, you're always locked into the shoe, and I never felt any heel slippage. The lacing system on the Harden Volume 6 is pretty basic, but it does work really well because the lace holes don't actually go in like a straight line, but instead it does go in a sort of wave or W pattern, which I think just really helps that upper wrap around your foot. So for my recommendation on the sizing, if you have a narrow foot, you can go down half a size. Then if you have a normal width foot or a wide foot, you can go through the size. So overall, for fit and lockdown, given that good lacing system, those Achilles and ankle pillows that really help compensate for that little bit of extra length, I'm gonna have to give the fit and lockdown on the Harden Volume 6 an A. Then moving on to the overall aesthetics, I do still think the shoe looks quirky and pretty weird, but after using these on court, I do have to admit that they don't really look as bad as I initially thought. Of course, that shape is pretty quirky and the colorway as well is pretty out there, but when you do wear these on court, you do kind of stand out and look pretty unique, and it'll definitely get some looks from people and maybe even some people asking what you have on feet. There also have been quite a few colorways that have been leaked by now, and there are some pretty clean ones like that all pink one. So if you're not a fan of this whole green and aqua look, there are definitely a lot of nicer options on the way. Even though these did grow on me a little bit, there are still some things that I would have changed or would have removed, like these blob-shaped overlays on the upper, that Harden logo patch here at the forefoot, and that pretty weird texture here on the rubber cage on the lateral side of the midsole. So overall, given the eye-catching and sort of weird look of the shoe, but also given the fact that it did sort of grow on me, especially as an on-court option, I'm gonna have to give the overall aesthetics of the Harden Volume 6 a B. Then moving on to the price, the Adidas Harden Volume 6 retails for 7,000 pesos here in the Philippines or $140 US. That is basically the same exact price as last year's shoe, and in terms of the value for money, I just think it's night and day. because the Harden Volume 5, to just be blunt about it, just really sucked. And for the Harden Volume 6, you do get that superb traction, that really plush and comfy boost cushion, pretty good fit and lockdown, really good support, and aesthetics that definitely could be right for you if you want something a little bit more quirky and out there. The only major issue with the Harden Volume 6 is just that upper, since it does feel so cheap in hand and also has questionable long-term durability. The Harden Volume 6 though I think is perfect for a lot of guards, a lot of wings, and maybe even for centers or big men because like I said, it is pretty supportive and the cushion has a lot of impact protection. I am pretty happy that Adidas has a solid basketball shoe lineup this 2022. I mean, the Trae Young 1s are amazing, the Dame 7s are amazing, the Dawn issue number 3s aren't like on that same level, but they're pretty solid as well, and the Harden Volume 6 in my opinion is excellent all the way around, except of course, like I said, for the materials on the upper. So there you have it guys, that was my full performance review on the Adidas Harden Volume 6. Once again, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you haven't already yet, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for notifications. And as always, whether you're looking for a retail win or if you're trying to help Philly win its first championship in decades, just keep on hunting.